Hello everyone, my name is Giorgio Abboud. I am the team lead for the GreenVault project, and today we will be going over our shortcomings wishlist. Starting off with the limitations, we have the data resilience. So as of right now, we do not have any retry or backup logic for the 12 API calls. So if we ever got some bad data or we ran out of tokens, then in that case, we have no way to consistently continue trying to ask for this information. Instead, the user will just have to retry clicking run. We also have no caches for recently asked for open, high, low, close volume windows. So if we scale this and there are multiple users requesting for the same time, unfortunately, none of this will be cached. So we will have to make another trip using another token to the API. Another thing is that we solely rely on the 12 data API calls, so if an outage were to happen, then we would simply not be able to provide our service. Next up is the authentication hardening. So right now we only use very basic JWT tokens. There's also no email verification when creating your account. Also, there is no rate limiting when requesting the 12 data API. So if the user were to make too many requests, there would simply be an error coming up telling them that no data is available right now. There also aren't any HTTP cookies guidance, so your sessions are unfortunately very easily exposed to any malicious actors. So that will have to be hardened in the future to protect your information. There's also the time and market validations. So as of right now, we don't have any daylight saving time validation or awareness. So we have to manually change those times on the back end. Like right now, originally it was 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., but after the DST changes, now it is 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. The market hours checks are also very simplistic between those two ranges. We also don't have any time zone conversion, so you specifically have to input all your data using the EST time. That way it aligns with New York's time. Also, the timestamps are not normalized besides a narrow format, so we're very strict with the RFC 3339 format. For expanded analytics, unfortunately as well, right now we only account for single trade fills, and we have a very short window coverage for like 5 minutes, where some people would increase that to 10 or 15 minutes. There's also no arrival price, which for now we are using the typical price, and we also do not calculate for the participation rate metric, which would be more ideal for performance benchmarking to see how you did. For the UI displays, we have sparse messaging, like when the market data is missing when we request an API call. It's a very brief message just telling you that we were not able to calculate your performance. There's also no export options for your reports, so you will have to manually go into your history and write everything down. For the system reliability, we have a very minimal structured logging, not much on the backend, and no request tracing. We do have, we also don't have any context for debugging. We don't have logging for that either, so ideally that would have to be implemented. And for the security and compliance, our environment variable handling is loose. It is very easy to end up containerizing it with a Docker, which isn't ideal for protecting, for example, your API keys or your database credentials. There's also no audit logging for safe trades, and so these will have to be enforced in the future. For the future improvements for the data resilience, we will plan on adding more retry and backoff logic. That way we can always get data even when their first run attempt was a failure. Caching would be important in order to save on 12 API data calls. And we will also consider looking into different data providers. Maybe some of them would also provide more data that would be useful to us, like NBBO tokens, because as of right now, we are not using them, which would be ideal in the future if we want to have more detailed observations of your performance and more detailed metrics. For the authentication hardening, we would of course enforce stronger practices. There would be an email verification in the future to make sure that you're using your own email. We would have rate limiting as well to stop users from abusing the API calls. And we would have more secure cookie and implement HTTPS guidelines. That way, your information cannot be stolen. For the time and market validation, we want to implement DST aware market hour validation. So in that case, we don't have to manually change it on the backend each time. And expand time stamp support, introduce more acceptable formats, and especially for the time zones to allow people from all over the country from their own separate time zones to be able to use our app, use their own time zones, and have them converted to our time. For the expanded analytics support, we do want to support multiple fill trades because not every fill happens in one go. Some of them happen over larger periods, larger windows. We also want to implement those longer windows to look past the trade a little further or look before it a little further. That way we can properly analyze how your trade affected the market and how if you should have waited longer or not. We also want to calculate the arrival price benchmarks instead of using the typical price and calculate the participation rates to see how much you personally influence the market. For UI enhancements, we want to provide clearer messaging for missing market data, for example, and for other things in general, explaining in detail what went wrong and why. Um, we want to implement more detailed historical views because as of right now, you can see your metrics and some explanations, but we would maybe want to expand on that and give you everything available. We want to implement more filters because as of right now, you can only filter by the symbol, and also implement some export options so that you are able to take out your data, maybe export it as a CSV file. For the system reliability, we want to add more logging, especially on the backend Python and the Go section. We want request tracing to see who's making what kind of request, metric dashboards to essentially explain more in detail what each metric means instead of having to rely on simply understanding the metric on its own. And of course, improved error observability, especially on the backend to understand what happens for better debugging purposes. For the security and compliance, we want to strengthen environment variable management and add audit logging for safe trades. So especially focus on stopping your API keys and your Postgres database credentials from being leaked, from being containerized and stolen. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.